Good morning or good evening wherever you are, or even if it's the afternoon. Welcome to another Eduro Learning's Facebook Live. I'm Chrissy and it's my turn to be with you this week as part of our micro-credentials launch. And this week we are talking about 6 questions to ask yourself when creating a tech-rich unit. Now, before I go any further, I just want to let you know that last week Kim did our Facebook Live and it was all about introducing our APLE learner and about how to go about making any unit tech rich. It's a really worthwhile jam-packed 20 odd minutes that you must check out. So you can find that video on our Eduro Learning Facebook page. If you just go there and click videos, you'll be able to see it. It is well worth sitting down and watching, believe me. So I'm going to sort of carry on from a lot of the points that Kim raised last week and talk to you a little bit about when you're actually sitting down and planning those tech-rich units, what are some questions that you could ask yourself that can help you make sure that those tech-rich units are not using technology for technology's sake, but really using technology in an authentic way that enhances the learning for your students. So I have 6 questions for you, and this week's freebie has those 6 questions in a nice little infographic type poster that is available for you this week free, and I'll put the link to that freebie in the comments below as well. And any other links that I mention, I'll also put those in there. And of course, because it's me, I have my handy dandy little sketch note and I'll also share that with you later. So if you see me sort of glancing sideways, that's me just checking my sketch note to make sure I don't forget anything. So here we go. Question number 1. Question number 1 is all about how is what I'm asking my students to do relevant to their lives today. This is probably the question that I think about the most when I'm doing planning for students in my classroom, because nothing irks me more than seeing kids learning about things that really aren't relevant to them anymore. And I always want to be able to answer the question, if a student says to me, why should this matter to me? Like, when am I going to use it? I want to be able to answer that particular question. So that's one of the very first questions that I ask myself, and I'm encouraging you to ask yourself when you're planning your tech-rich unit is, how is what I'm asking my students to do relevant to their lives today? Question number 2 is all about the knowledge and the skills that my students are going to acquire as a result of this thing that I'm going to ask them to be learning about. And I also think about how will I measure those key knowledge and skills. And so sometimes when I'm sitting down planning my tech-rich unit, it's the technology that helps me to measure those skills or that task that I'm asking them to do. And sometimes my students are using the technology to show me or to demonstrate to me that they have gained that knowledge or those skills that it is that I want them to understand or to learn. And I think Kim mentioned last week that this is often an area that you can use the technology in either area. So you can either use it as a way to assess, or you can use it as a way for your students to show you how they can demonstrate their knowledge and skills. Question number 3 is all about purposeful and authentic tasks. So what purposeful and authentic task will allow my students to demonstrate their understanding? And this is kind of when you can start thinking about the tool that they can use, the technology tool. And that's not to say that it's a flash involved in-depth technology tool that you need to be using. It could be a simple tool like pen and paper. It's really not about the tool. So you're not going to hear me, just like Kim last week, you're not going to hear me or her talk about specific tools, because it really isn't about the tool. It's about what you're doing and what tools can help you do that. And there's a ton of technology tools out there, and sometimes we can get a little bit caught up in using a tool for a tool's sake, and we could have used something much easier like pen and paper to do the task a lot easier and a lot faster. So coming back to what is the purpose and is it an authentic reason to use that tool is probably one of those questions that's foremost in my mind when I'm doing the planning. I can see that I've got 2 people live in the audience and I'm not sure who you are, so I'm just going to swipe the screen. Give me a shout out and let me know who you are so I can say hello, but thank you for joining us. So that's the first 3 questions. Question number 1 was, am I asking my students to do something that's relevant in their lives today? Question number 2 was about the key knowledge and skills that my students are going to acquire as a result of this thing that I'm asking them to do, and how will I measure those. And question number 3 was all about what purposeful and authentic task will allow my students to demonstrate their understandings. And if you're very familiar with Backwards by Design or the design cycle, you'll know that it's all about the enduring understandings and the essential questions that help guide what it is that your students will eventually do and learn. So if you're not familiar with those, or you've heard a little bit about them, I'll put some links in the comments below after the Facebook Live, and you can go check those out if you would like to. So now we're up to question number 4. So question number 4 is, I'm starting to get into the nitty-gritty of my unit now, and I'm thinking about how does the task that I'm going to ask my students to do redefine or transfer student learning. So I know it's often we get caught up in trying to make everything transformative or redefine the learning all the time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that each time you do something, it goes from here to way over here. I'm probably not explaining this very well. But what I'm saying is that if you did something and you improved it more than the last time you did it, or perhaps it's not exactly the same task, but it's something similar, and you're just nudging it forward, that's okay. Like, we're not asking you every time to jump from the starting line all the way to the finish line, because that's just an impossible task and you're setting yourself up for failure, and it's not very encouraging, it's not very motivational. But if you can think about, like, how can I redefine the learning, even if it's just a little bunny hop, the next time it's another bunny hop, and the next time it's another bunny hop, because I know that as teachers we often teach the same thing or around about the same thing each year, and we should be trying to push ourselves or push what we're asking our students to do into the next level. So even though we're saying how does the task redefine and transform the learning, it may not necessarily go from being a task that was down here in kind of what we're asking kids to do to being way over here. So hopefully I've kind of got across what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure. Perhaps you can let me know in the comments. That kind of leads me into question number 5. And now I'm starting to think about, like, what is the product or what is the thing at the end of all of this learning, or even partway through this learning, that my students are going to produce? Is it, are they creating something that is quality? And Kim talked a little bit about this last week in when she was talking about chunking the design cycle down into stages, like 4 stages, and giving assessment and feedback in each of those stages. So you are able to see what it was that your students were working on and allow them to work on it, get some feedback, work on it some more and improve it or change it, and then get some more feedback. And so by the time they've gone through those stages, they're actually creating and producing something that's pretty darn good. And so when I'm thinking about the products in my technology rich unit, I'm thinking about, will the technology that I'm using allow my kids to produce a quality product? So I'm thinking about tools that I don't have to do one part here and have to try and figure out how to get another part in. Like I'm not interested in those kind of technology tools. I'm looking for something that will allow my students to focus on the learning and focus on demonstrating their understanding rather than focusing on what am I trying to say? I'm not having a very good morning this morning. Perhaps it's because I haven't had my coffee. So what I'm trying to say is that I want to use quality tools that help my kids produce quality work, but I don't want to get caught up in using a tool that is so whiz-bangy and so difficult to use that it doesn't end up helping my students to produce a quality product, or it doesn't help them produce quality work. I guess that's essentially what I'm saying. And so that brings me back to the point that Kim raised last week, was that that fourth stage of the design cycle is you testing out the tool, you having a go at making the product that you're going to ask your students to make. And then you can kind of get an idea of, is this going to be able to help my kids to produce quality work, or is it not really the right tool for the job? Now into question number 6. And this one is probably, even if you don't use tools or technology tools that any earlier in these projects, this last question that you should always ask yourself when you're creating a tech-rich unit, this last question is the one that really can help redefine or transform the learning. And that is there an opportunity to share and or get feedback on our learning from a global community? So this is where the technology tools that you can choose really come into play and help with a tech-rich unit. And it may be that you only use a little bit of technology all the way leading up to this point, but in some way, shape or form, you're using technology to share the learning or understanding with a global community and get feedback on that learning, and then give your students an opportunity to improve their understanding based on the feedback that they're given. So this is one way of really using the power of technology, the thing that can make a unit technology rich is that global sharing part. Like, how can I bring the world into my classroom, or how can I show my classroom to the world? Because not only does that make the learning purposeful and authentic for your students, it also gives you an opportunity for students to produce something that just not the teacher is going to see, and that can have a powerful and motivating opportunity for your students. So they are the 6 questions that I kind of think about when I'm sitting down creating a tech-rich unit. So I'll just quickly go through the 6. So question number 1 was, is what I'm asking my students to do relevant to their lives today? Number 2 is, what are the key knowledge and skills that my students are going to acquire as a result of what I'm asking them to do, and how will I measure those? Is the purposeful and authentic task that I'm going to ask my students to do, will it enable them to demonstrate their understanding? And question number 4 was, does the task redefine or transform student learning? And remember, we're not talking about going from a task that was way down here to way over here. We're asking you to think about, how can I push, how can I redefine, how can I transform the learning from what I did last time to nudging it forward a little bit more, and usually the technology can help you do that. Question number 5 was, are my students creating a product or producing quality work using these tools? And question number 6 is there an opportunity to share and or get feedback on our learning from a global community? And my watch is buzzing, which means that I've now been live for 15 minutes. So before I head off today, there's one more thing that I want to share with you. Remind you about the free PDF, of course. You can get that from bit.ly/EduroTechRich, and I'll put that link in the comments for you. But also check out last week's Facebook Live video with Kim talking about making any unit technology rich, because that's got a wealth of information in it and well worth taking the time to watch. And also on this week's blog, I've talked about 3 tips that you can check out that will help you also when you're planning a tech-rich unit. So remember to check those out. That's on our blog, edurolearning.com/blog. And if you like this and you want more, please visit edurolearning.com/teachers, because we have a ton of stuff available for you. And also, if you're a parent watching, we also have a ton of stuff for parents as well. Just swap the teachers out for parents. So that's it for this week. 6 questions to ask yourself when creating a tech-rich unit. Grab the free PDF. It's those questions in an infographic form. Check out the blog. Check out last week's Facebook video live, and that's it from me. I'm going to take a bit of a break for the next few weeks, and then I'll be back. So hope to see you then. Thanks for joining us today. See you again next time.